Cosmic Horror Monsters again. Jeez Louise, you'd think that they'd have got the message by now, and ever since we unclenched the clasp between realities and let them all come surging through the multiverse, it goes without saying that we've had our fair share of eldritch monstrosities to slay and add to our pile of big bad nasties. We've had the Eldrazi, the Great Ones from Bloodborne, the God Hand from Berserk, and of course the Chaos Gods from Warhammer and Warhammer 40k. But as is the case with many of these entities, the point of cosmic horror is fearing the unknown. So in that case, once again, let's make the unknown known. Hello horror fans, what's going on? And once again, welcome back to the Scariest channel on YouTube, top 5 scary videos. As per usual, I'll be your horror host, Jack Finch. Today we curiously take a look at the top 5 scariest cosmic horror monsters, part 3. Roll the clip. For the curious amongst you, of course, that scene was from 2004's Hellboy, starring the one and only Ron Perlman as the red-fisted demon hero himself, and depicting the moment where the eldritch Ogdru Jahad are freed from their crystalline tombs of cosmic horror. Obviously, that's a little bit spoilerific, but hey, if you're watching this list without knowing the inner workings of Hellboy, stop what you're doing and go and read up about it. Also, watch part 2 of this series, where we featured the Ogdru Jahad in their rightful spot of cosmic horror. So yeah, you know how it goes. On with the show. Kicking off at number 5, the FINCH, Magic the Gathering. Alright, in part 1 of this series we featured some pretty terrifying cosmic horror entities found within the remarkable lore of Magic the Gathering, and whilst I'm aware that a boatload of you are fans of that particularly awesome CCG and found great joy in us featuring the horrifying Eldrazi, there is one plane of unbridled pain and misery that still remains. Now, it is also important to note that the reason these particularly cosmic horror monstrosities only find themselves at our number 5 spot is because technically they're kind of a little bit too artificial for our cosmic horror liking. But still, aside from that, these creatures are hella messed up. The Phyrexians that hail from the plane of Phyrexia, an artificial plane of mechanical and biomechanical life, an entire ecosystem comprised entirely of metal, death and bioengineered tissue. The Machine Hell, an entire plane of misery created with the sole purpose of furthering its artificial horror. Originally the plane of Phyrexia was a regular old metal plane in the myriad worlds of Magic the Gathering, but that's before a figure known as Yawgmoth showed up, brought there by the planeswalker Diffid of the Thran Empire, as the two of them fled a great virus that was destroying their people, and with them Yawgmoth offered a cure, essentially replacing the mortality of those afflicted with engineered artifice. But as is usually the case when you play God on a new mortal plane, things quickly got out of hand. Well, I say quickly, but what I really mean is over thousands of years, as these new Phyrexian lifeforms evolved into all manners of horrifying creations: witch engines, birth priests, flesh reavers, hollow dogs, plague dreadnoughts that spout bile from their spore engines and litter the plane of Phyrexia with their bio-machine hell life. Over a long enough span of time, a vast social order of Phyrexia has emerged, a horrifying food chain of machine churches and rituals, constantly administering pain and misery to further the evolution of their machine species across the nightmarish machine world. The 9 spheres of Phyrexia have enough cosmic horror crammed between their gears for us to make an entire list of its own, and whilst technically cheating with the whole artificial thing, this world is a shambling set of horrors that would make Cthulhu himself wince. Swinging in at number 4, ABOLETH, Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, if you have a fear of snakes and or eels and or cosmic horror serpents, you should probably look away now. Why did it have to be cosmic horror snake eels? You see, just as we also featured the Illithids of the Underdark on our previous list, the best tabletop RPG ever created of all time, Dungeons and Dragons, has much more up its sleeve when it comes to the inner workings of cosmic horror. And whatever you may have thought of the Illithid and their brain slug, ear crawling ways, the Aboleth race of the Far Realm certainly give them a run for their money. And if you ever thought a race of giant serpentine space fish with 1,000 teeth can ever forge their own society and culture for us to be cosmically baffled and horrified at, then think again. Actually, don't think, shut off your mind, because Aboleths feed on psionic energy, and oh no, we've only gone and done it now. Appearing as fish-like amphibians of immense size, the Aboleth species appear as a bizarre eel with long tubular bodies, with their maws resembling that of a lamprey filled with rows and rows of serrated and jawless teeth. They breathe through a thick grey mucus-like substance which covers their body, and they exude from 4 pulsating organs that line their strange serpentine form. However, the most terrifying facet of the Aboleth species is their immensely powerful psionic abilities, and much like the Illithids of the Far Realm, they thrive thrive on manipulating and feeding on the life essence of sentient creatures. The ABOLETH have infinite memories, and their species share a network of consciousness inherent with the memories of all of their ancestors. All of their species are hermaphroditic and possess the capability of laying their own eggs, roughly every 5 years, up to 9 at a time, that then hatch into fully functional ABOLETHs ready to spread more terror throughout the cosmos. ABOLETHs are terrifying, and they're gross, and there's kind of no stopping them, actually. Next up at number 3, SITHIS, the Elder Scrolls. Okay, again, much like with our other 2 entries, we've previously covered some pretty terrifying cosmic nasties of similar franchises, namely the Daedric Princes, who are a whole other level of horror, but there is one particular entity of the Elder Scrolls that I would still like to talk about, although it kind of pains me to do so, considering the fact that the SITHIS is the embodiment of emptiness, which is a paradox of a head scratcher, and also sums up just exactly how bleak and despairing this particular entity really is. In the rich and all-encompassing lore of the Elder Scrolls series, SITHIS, also known as Akel, Sithisid, Saiji, and the Dread Father, is a deity representative of the complete and utter emptiness of the void. And just like any other all-evil deity worth their salt, in this series he's worshipped primarily by the Dark Brotherhood, who, let's face it, should always be your choice in the game, as well as many other cults across Tamriel. The thing is though, what is utterly compelling about SITHIS from a cosmic horror perspective is his interaction with the mortal realm, and he has tiptoed his way across the world like some spindly Nyarlathotep, spreading his influence in one way or the other, if you could call it that. You see, SITHIS is neither an Aedra nor a Daedra in the cosmology of the Elder Scrolls. In fact, it is widely theorized that this creature was solely responsible for giving life to the Daedric princes that populate the realms of oblivion. SITHIS is most prominently considered to be the birth soul incarnate of Padome, the primordial cosmic force of change and chaos, and the force in complete antithesis to Anu, the primordial cosmic force of order. And as you may imagine, being the literal avatar of chaos has caused quite the calamity over the ages. You see, the worship of SITHIS is rejected by most cultures in the Elder Scrolls series, but that didn't exactly stop him from spreading his will. If you know anything about the Elder Scrolls, you'll know that a figure known as the Night Mother is one particularly horrifying facet of that lore. Well, yeah, as you may imagine, the Night Mother was created after SITHIS impregnated a poor unassuming Dunmer woman who then gave birth to 5 children. SITHIS corrupted her mind into sacrificing these 5 children to him and the Void, and to cut a long story short, that's how we get the Dark Brotherhood. Just another day in the life of SITHIS. Coming in at number 2, Yog, the Lord of Empty Abodes. Alright guys, I'm just going to preface this particular point with the fact that a few of you have recently found umbrage with the lack of Robert E. Howard on this channel. Guys, chill. Robert E. Howard is brilliant. Conan the Barbarian is my guy, but sometimes Howard's work is so rich and specific in sword and sorcery that it's hard to feature his many creations on any given list. It's nothing personal, but the cosmic horror beneath Howard's rich universe takes some hefty unearthing, and it often requires a particularly capable barbarian. On this one though, we can certainly feature one of his most cosmically terrifying of unknown entities, Yog, the Lord of Empty Abodes. In the Hyborian Age, it goes without saying, but the primordial earth that Robert E. Howard created had its fair share of monstrosities for Conan to handle, and its fair share of cultists to do the worshipping. The worship of Yog dates back to the Kari invasion, and many Ryborian scholars speculate that Yog was a demon of the Elder Night, ancient entities like those worshipped before the fall of Atlantis. You see, those that worship Yog followed a simple doctrine. They could only ever eat meat, no plants or plant matter of any kind, and they must consume human flesh at least once per month. Those that failed this simple task were considered ritually unclean until they had done so. You see, the cosmic horror that lies behind Yog, the Lord of Empty Abodes, is perhaps the most bare bones of them all. It is the definitive term of the fear of the unknown, in the sense that throughout Howard's Hyborian Age there are clear examples of this fully fleshed religion, and yet no explanation as to why this cosmic entity requires the consumption of human flesh. At each full moon, the worshippers of Yog would dig a pit in which their priests would then pour volatile oils into it and set it alight. They believed that once per month they must eat the moon, and they would go to great lengths during this ritual to eat any outsiders in front of their cosmic pyre that had recently strayed into their cult, in some cases with over 40 people partaking in the Feast of the Flesh. Yogites are pretty devout, to say the least, and yet the parameters of their cosmic horror deity remains a complete and utter mystery. And finally, coming in at number 1 spot, the Deadlights. It. Okay, my arm has been well and truly twisted, and although our many lists of Stephen King's horror creations have been penned over here at Top 5 Scary Videos, when we talk about the specifics of cosmic horror, we'd be serving an injustice not to feature Pennywise the dancing clown and the anomalous entity behind it, the Deadlights, a bizarre and utterly perplexing creation of the Todash darkness and a figure in the multiverse of Stephen King that is still yet to be elaborated upon, and in all likelihood that's exactly how it will be left. King himself knew better than many other authors that the purpose of putting the horror in cosmic horror is to rely on the ambiguity of the truth, and because of that there will only ever be illusions as to how or what or where or who the Deadlights came into existence by, who created it, or what it even is. But one thing remains the same: the Deadlights came to Earth to wreak havoc upon the poor town of Derry, Maine, before being banished in the ritual of Tude by the Losers Club once and for all, and yet still somewhere it exists in the void of space, feeding off of the misery of others, longing for the purest of all fear, a child's fear. The unknown entity itself, through it, which takes the form of Pennywise the dancing clown, a giant horrifying spider, or any other eater of worlds that it so desires, is the embodiment of all things cosmic horror. We know nothing about the Deadlights as to whether it is a single species or a collection of species, other than the fact that they were a set of writhing radiant orange lights exuding the primal form of all eldritch energy from the Todash darkness of the void, which is the place in between worlds. And that's about it, really, as so far as the knowledge behind the Deadlights that we possess. In the confines of the Dark Tower series, small fragments of the possible truth are offered. We know that the Crimson King himself wields the Deadlights as a type of magical force, but we never truly understand as to whether he wields the essence of it or just a version of it. And here's where the true horror beauty of Stephen King's cosmic horror lies. We, the reader, are left to fill in the gaps. We, the reader, are responsible for finding the true terror that lies in the space in between. It's our responsibility to stare into the abyss to see what stares back. Hopefully it's not a dancing clown with a gaping maw of razor sharp teeth. That's never fun. Stay safe, everybody. Well, there we have it, our list for the top 5 scariest cosmic horror monsters, part 3. What do you guys think? Do you agree, disagree, have any more to add to this list? Then let us know your thoughts down in the comment section below, as well as any choice picks of your own, and who knows what else is lurking in the realms of cosmic horror. Before we depart from today's video though, let's first take a quick look at some of your more creative comments from over the past few days. First up, Adam Juneman says, "Jack, I don't care if you only do read 2 comments, as long as one of them's mine." Well, there you go then, Adam Juneman. Look at you shine. And finally, DJones95 says, "Really love watching top 5 scary videos. It totally rocks. You totally rule, guys." Well, thank you, DJones95. But it's all of you guys that totally rule, and thank you to everyone else that leaves a nice comment like that. But you know the rules, guys. 2's the limit. Sorry. Well, on that note, unfortunately that's all I've got time for in today's video. Cheers for sticking around all the way until the end. If you were a fan of this video, or just top 5 scary videos in general, then please be a dear and hit that thumbs up button, as well as that subscribe bell, and I'll be seeing you in the next one. As per usual, I've been your horror host, Jack Finch. You've been watching top 5 scary videos, and until next time, you take it easy.